Hey everybody, it's 9 p.m. What is it?
Uh,
Eastern time over there, right?
I see it's still counting down on my end.
Yeah,
Eastern.
it's okay. There's a lag. We're live
Oh,
on
I got
our
you.
end.
I got you.
Thanks, Bryn.
Sorry.
Pulling back the curtain. Thanks,
But
Brent.
we're yeah. But we are here live on the YouTubosphere with David Wagner and Michael Nicholson. I think we will refer to Michael as Michael today, and Mike as Mike Robinson. So
Two mics.
two mics, two mics.
Or if you yell his name, he'll hear you too.
3 times in a row, and he shows up, whether you like it or not.
Like Beetlejuice or Nosferatu.
That's right. But we're going to have some conversation about the upcoming Super Saturday training event in Pennsylvania. We're going to talk about some amazing stuff Michael Nicholson's doing. And so let's get rolling. Bryn, why don't you take it away?
Okay. Basically, let me just repeat what Keith just said.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about Super Saturday. We have Dave Wagner here with us, Michael Nicholson with us. Dave Wagner is heavily, I would say you're
Heavy. He's
you're
not heavy.
almost, you're kind of pretty much running the show this year, right, Dave?
It feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, you got a lot on your plate with getting this event ready. Basically, you're staying really busy with it. But we're glad to have Dave on. I can share really quickly with everybody. Of course, we're talking about Super Saturday. For those of you that don't know, that's ASA Pennsylvania's Saturday event, and that's October 12th, isn't it?
October 12th.
Yep.
October
Daughter's
12th,
birthday.
Saturday,
Happy
October
birthday.
12th. And this is the third year?
This is the 6th annual.
The 6th annual. Okay.
Yeah, it's the 3rd year that I'm having to do with it.
Okay. I'm sorry, what? The third year what?
This is the 3rd year that I have something to do with it, though.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense now. It really wasn't anything before you got there, I'm guessing.
It was good. It was always
Just
good.
kidding. Well, I can say I went for the first time last year, and it was a really awesome show. It was hustle and bustle because they make it like a 3-day event in one day because there's so much stuff going on. But the vibe was amazing. These guys, Joe, the two Joes, and David were really, really awesome and hospitable. Even though they're like crazy busy, they still found the time to make everybody feel comfortable and welcome. So, very good show. Definitely look forward to seeing you there. And so we're just here to kind of hear a little bit from Dave about what's how it's going and what we can expect this year.
Well, things seem to be going pretty good. We have we're almost at this point to the same attendance that we had last year. So I am expecting to at least double the attendance we had last year.
Wow.
This time last year, we weren't even signing people up yet. So with over 100 people signed up, that's pretty good. It doesn't seem like a lot, but
that's phenomenal considering the website was only been live a couple weeks now, maybe a month.
Yeah,
that's
awesome. But yeah, I've been signing people up even without the website. Just we have a PayPal account and stuff. But yeah, I was a little late to the game with the vendors and stuff like that. So there's going to be a few less, I think, as of right now. So if anybody knows anybody that want to, show off a product of theirs, we definitely have room for them. That's like everybody else. There, a lot of people are last minute, so I'm sure we'll get a lot of last minute people signing up for that too. So
Awesome. So I got a question for you.
Answer.
So great. So ASA-PA, how'd you get involved? How'd you get started with all this?
Well, several years ago, my boss was involved with another organization. I think it was called AASP, and he just got involved in ASA, and ever since meeting Jim Morton, I kind of got hooked on like serious training, and just kind of grabbed the bull by the horn and did what I could to try to get good training around, and honestly, the two Joes and myself 3 years ago, we took over Super Saturday because we kept going out to Vision, and we kept wanting to know why the hell don't we have something like a Vision out here on the East Coast? Why do we have to travel halfway across the country? So, yeah, we had we had our ASA president at the time, stuck in the back seat of the Suburban, and we basically manhandled him and told him we're doing it, and it worked.
Awesome.
Otherwise known as Chicago style. So what is your background exactly? Like, tell us a little. Like, how did you get started? What do you like? What's your day to day? What do you do?
What do? I am I'm the head tech in a 5-bay shop. I do probably 90% of the diagnostics there. Most of the heavy work too, but I do like the diagnostic side of things. I basically started in this industry when I was about 11 or 12 years old, working for my uncle, just doing little shit stuff like sweeping floors and changing oil and stuff, and I just never looked back. So fresh out of high school, I went to the dealership. I thought I was king shit because I could make 1 million hours in a week, and then my wife's uncle was actually buying the shop that he was working for, and he needed a family member he could trust. So he had me come work for him for about a week, and it scared the shit out of me. I ain't gonna lie to you. You work on one manufacturer all the time, and someone asks you to take a Ford head gasket apart. I'm like, yeah, right, dude. Like, I've never seen a 16 millimeter before. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell is a 16 millimeter? I thought everything was 10, 13, and 15.
Yep.
And
Those don't come apart.
yeah, overhead cam. What the hell's that? I don't think GM had them in the 90s. Except for that 3.4 liter. But yeah, I don't know. It worked out, and he hired me, offered me good money to get out of the dealer, and yeah, never looked back. So
That's awesome. So, like, how did you you just got the Super Saturday thing put in your lap this year?
Well, the other two Joes, they had a lot of business obligations they needed to take care of, so they took a big step back. Joe Brukowski, he's got a lot of things going on with his kids, you know what I mean? So he definitely wanted to be there for his family. And I could definitely appreciate that. Joe T is involved this year. It just took him a little while to step back into it because of all the business stuff he had going on. But now that that's all settled, he's back in the game. So
Nice.
yeah, I kind of really needed that because he's making a lot of phone calls for me. So.
Sweet.
That's awesome, man. So,
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry, Brian.
I was gonna say, well, I would look forward to seeing all of them again. It was a good time.
Absolutely.
So, what kind of classes are we having at Super Saturday?
We're having a little bit of everything. So we're gonna have John Thornton's gonna do a GDI class and a push button start. Eric Ziegler's gonna do a communication class and a variable valve timing class. I got Brandon doing a 4-hour version of his pressure transducer class twice.
Awesome class.
Yeah, it is. I really wish I could have had him do the 8-hour version, but I wanted to. I think because we only have 2 really big rooms in that facility, I wanted to get other people in the big rooms this year since Brandon kind of stole the show last year, So, and you know what? If people want more, they can. I'll bring Brandon back, on a different Saturday or something if somebody wants the whole class. So, what else do we have? We got a few management classes going on. What else do we have?
You got Danny Sanchez doing some management and Rick White, right?
Yeah, Dan Sanchez, Rick White, and John Burkhauser from Bolt On Technologies.
Right.
Chris Lewis is doing his 6.7 liter class.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
I took
Power stroke.
Yeah, I took that 2-day class from ATG. It was great. I enjoyed it.
I took that as well.
Any good scope classes there?
Yeah, Bryn. Sorry about that.
Oh
Yeah, doing his hands-on snap-on scope class. I have a few people I'm up their butts about getting to that because, I can only visit their shop so many times to show them how to hook up leads.
Well,
George
again,
Minshew's doing
that-
his
that-
big wiring diagram class, right?
Yeah. Menchu's class is filling up very fast.
I was going to say it attracts people every time. So
I was very surprised about that. I don't know why, but I guess I look at so many wiring diagrams. I guess I just never would have thought in a million years a wiring diagram class could be.
Well, it's honestly it's life changing, and it's a class that once you do it, it makes you money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, David, the same here. Like, I've seen his class, the title and like the description. I would say probably all the way back to like Auto Mechanica 2015. I don't know, maybe not that. I remember seeing it several times at conferences and thinking, I don't know, it just didn't sit. Like, I don't know if that's where I want to spend my time. But now, like, I regret not going. I wish I still haven't had a chance to go. I would really like to go. He was supposed to teach. It at the 2018 Auto Mechanica, and that his class canceled, I guess, because of the low attendance. But I was kind of bummed there. But
I took that class at Can. It literally changed my life. I want to talk about it in a little bit, but I want to talk to Dave about some more stuff because I know you're having some issues. You got people coming from out of the country, right, David?
We have, I want to say, almost a dozen people coming from the UK.
wow.
That's cool.
I have somebody from Zimbabwe. Today I had 2 people sign up from Montreal. We have about 5 people coming from Quebec. And I want to say about a half a dozen coming from Puerto Rico.
wow.
And
That is amazing.
it's pretty. When I saw that, I thought it was pretty amazing myself.
Pretty cool,
Especially
man.
since from the state of Pennsylvania, I think we have less than 6, which blows my. Which
You have
Less
more
than
people
6.
coming from the UK than you do from the home state.
Did you less than 6 or what?
That means
less than 6 people from right here in my backyard.
Oh, I got you.
I know.
Holy mackerel, man.
they're just waiting to the last minute to sign up.
Don't feel too bad. When we all met at the CAN conference, I think it was me and Pedro de la Torre that was from Chicago. Everybody else was out of town.
It's insane, isn't it?
And Tim Jones was there too. Yeah, Tim was there.
I count him from Indiana. Sorry, Tim.
Well, isn't Pedro's in Indiana too.
I was there.
Pedro.
Brian, you left. Don't count
He
me.
lives in Indiana, but he's from Chicago.
Yeah, I know.
So like that's it's actually kind of rough. You got this world class training in your backyard, and how do you get people to go?
You know what? I think Facebook's been our saving grace lately. And honestly, it was probably this time last year that Joe talked me into getting back onto Facebook. I wasn't on Facebook for probably about 8 years.
Yeah, that was rough. That was rough getting a hold of you.
Man, I pretty much just
Right.
don't talk to people if they're not on Facebook, man. It just doesn't happen.
Or Voxer.
Yeah, I had a lot of people up my ass saying that I needed to get back on there. And funny thing is, other than my wife, I don't think I have any family members as friends.
Probably a
man.
good thing. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I'm using it for basically the professional side of it. That's about it. If you don't have my phone number, you're my family member. You better have my phone number. You know what I mean? Call me if you need me. So,
Cool. So that's pretty awesome. I mean, so the growth you've seen just your experience of doing it has been insane. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe how much Joe Verkowski did last year. There was a lot of stuff he did behind the scenes that I had no clue what he was doing, and it's a little frustrating only because I didn't know what he was doing. And now I'm finding out, and it's just kind of being slapped in my face. So,
It's Chris Martini was talking earlier about adulting. You've probably adulted a lot this year.
Yeah. This whole adulting stuff.
Yes, sir.
I'm completely against adulting.
Oh, snap, Mr. Keefe.
Oh,
What up?
So moving along, I guess. Well, what were we talking about? Oh, hold on 1 second. Oh, okay. I had to go get some stuff. Yeah, I wanted to talk about I guess George Menchu's color his wiring diagram class. It's have any of you guys taken it? Dave, did you take it before?
I've never taken it.
All right.
I think I took it with you, Chris.
Yeah, you were sitting in the back of the room. I was sitting in the front of the room.
I was tickling you.
Yeah.
The other class we got to mention too is Perkins' class.
Oh,
How
yeah.
to forget that?
Oh, don't worry. Nobody's taking that class. It's
Yeah, nobody's signing up for that.
His class.
Who wants 8 hours of me talking?
Are you gonna talk from like behind a wall so you don't blow out anybody's eardrums, or
Yeah.
should we just go for the full effect and give
So-
it?
Oh my
He's
god.
gonna talk from the parking lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, the majority of my public speaking
Outdoor
has been
class.
Do they have
Public.
a backwards bullhorn?
the majority of my public speaking has been public, so I have to project, and it's kind of loud.
Hold on, just wait a second. Can
you
we just acknowledge? Can we just acknowledge that Brent said backwards bullhorn? Because that is the funniest thing.
He can project to the UK. They don't even have to make the flight over.
Oh, it's
What
funny.
what class are you teaching, Keith?
J2534 module programming, covering both domestic and Asian.
Sweet.
So,
Lots of cool tricks.
Yeah, we're going to cover all the big ones. And it's not, we're going to spend like 6 hours of that talking about just the legislation. I'm kidding.
Oh, great.
I absolutely cannot stand that. So we are going to do. I'm bringing some bench flashing stuff, so we're going to actually flash stuff in the class on the bench. We're going
that'd be
to
awesome.
tear up and brick some modules, and we're going to unbrick them.
Are you
We're
gonna
gonna
let people
run
brick
through
modules?
I will help individuals brick modules, and I will help them unbrick them.
Sweet.
That's my type of class.
You gonna let the smoke out?
We are gonna permanently brick one. Actually, I actually have plans. It's this bad mamma jamma right here. This GM module here.
No fires though.
If you can
No,
bring a GM, man,
I don't
that
have any
takes
quad
time.
4 computers. Otherwise, we could just smoke one.
Any quad 4 injector drivers? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay,
later.
I just got a reminder that Dave Hobbs is going to be teaching a ADOS class in the morning.
That's right.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, what is it? Radar ready? That class, the
I
Delphi.
believe so. It sounds right.
Let me look here.
I have not had one of his classes, so that's interesting.
I took one of his ADOS classes at Vision.
Dave's a great guy.
I like Dave a lot.
Chris Perkins told me that he was going to teach the class in his best Chris Farley person.
Yeah.
So
In
you
In a
guys,
van down by the river.
for those of you that are going to register, you have that to look forward to.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, Keith. Oh, that would be hilarious if that was the truth.
Sign me up for that one.
Yeah. It is radar ready, diagnosing advanced driver assist systems. Dave Hobbs.
Cool.
Well,
Did we get the list, or is there more?
I have the list that's on the website.
What does the list on the website say?
It says Chris Lewis 6.7 Power Stroke, calibration insights from Scott Brown.
Oh, we forgot Scott was teaching the
Yep,
class.
Scott Brown. He's doing.
He's our keynote
I
speaker.
was gonna say he's the keynote also, right? Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
not calibration as in programming. He's going to be talking about everything that goes into a calibration from the the ground up. Me and Scott nerd out every time we talk about this on custom tuning vehicles, but he's going to talk about fuel control, catalyst warm up strategies, engine management, NVH stuff, everything. He's going to cover what goes into a calibration. So it'll probably be a pretty interesting class for sure.
did he do something similar last year?
I believe he did the same class last year.
Okay.
But
It has changed
a
a
lot of
lot
people
from what
really
I've
liked
talked to him.
I pretty much spent all day just taping cords to the floors for instructors. I feel like that's all. I don't know. It was a crazy day. It was a really crazy day.
That was I spent part of the day in Brandon's class, the other part of the day in and behind the booth because the surprise booth was insane.
Yeah.
The whole vendor area was crazy.
Yeah, there were a lot of vendors.
It was awesome.
Then, just to finish the list, there's coaching and counseling for employee success with Rick White. That's a management class. Communicating with today's customers. That's a John Burkhauser class. And then,
You just yell at 'em.
yeah, that's a good one. Then EZ's network class. John Thornton's gasoline direct injection operation and diagnosis. How to become a talent magnet with Rick White. I've not seen that one before. Is that a new class of his?
I'm a certain kind of magnet, but
What was his other class?
Rick White's.
Yeah.
It's organized down farther at the bottom, I think, due to
Coaching and counseling, employee success.
yes, coaching and counseling for employee success. So those are probably good together if you're looking for management training.
Rick's great, man.
He's very lively too. Like, I haven't taken a class of his, but talking to him in person, he's very animated.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like he'd be a lot of fun. Then we got Bryn's intro to Snap-on scopes, which is hands-on. That's the important part. My
We're
class.
gonna be breaking cars.
Yeah.
So
Can we
with
talk about that class for a little bit? Because
Yeah.
we actually are teaching it here. So, Bryn, what is your class?
Yeah.
So it's the way it's just written up and described. It's pretty accurate. I know when I go out into shops to help them with cars, I notice way too often that they have these really expensive red scan tools that just happen to have oscilloscopes attached to them, and their test leads. You hear it from instructors all the time too. The test leads are brand new in the package, never have been used, and sometimes you even hear them say, "Well, I didn't pay for that feature," even though I think it's a subscription that they had to buy extra. So that there's a lot of that, but we're going to be actually testing, acquiring signals from live cars. But it's the very first beginning part's going to talk about oscilloscopes, but then this class is specific. We'll kind of be talking about, because the two scopes that I use are Pico and Snap-on, primarily Pico, but we'll talk about the differences. So if you have a Snap-on and a Pico, and you're primarily using Pico like me, but it's nice to have like a handheld unit you can go test stuff real quick. We're going to talk about how to test with a Snap-on, how it's different than other scopes, and how to scope cars with using your Snap-on scope. So some introduction, but very specifically teaching how to use your Snap-on. Even if you already are a pretty good scope user, I think there's a lot of guys that don't, or girls that don't understand exactly how to use their Snap-on. So, but like I said, we're going to be acquiring real signals from cars, and we're going to have a good time.
Would you say you would recommend shop owners send their employees kind of to this kind of thing, so they can learn how to use the equipment that's already in their shop?
Absolutely, yeah. That's the point. There's way too many shops that are spending 10 grand on these Viruses and Zeuses, and even some of the Modus Edge 2 channels. There's so many shops that have these really expensive and totally respectable scopes that are just sitting there and not being used. And what happens, you guys I think will agree, is maybe a technician attends a class, and they see some scope captures, and they see the trainer talk about how important it is to at least know how to use it, and do your actual physical testing with it whenever necessary. And then they go back in and they try, and they get frustrated because what they come up with on their screen doesn't look anything like what's in the class that they saw. So that's really what this is about, is to try to help you understand how to, in theory it's great, you're in a classroom, PowerPoint classroom, but the great thing about these events is it allows us, thanks to Dave and their crew, it allows us to physically play with cars. So it'll be your chance to actually put it to use.
So if you want to break a car, come on down.
Bring your own car.
And it was if you're bringing your own car, you got to bring it Friday.
So, Bryn, you're going to show people how to use ShopStream Connect?
Yeah, I will, definitely. But I will probably refer to Brian.
All right.
I use ShopStream, but to my opinion, it's a bit of a clunky software. So you have to move like the files around for it to work. So, but we'll definitely talk about ShopStream. Thanks for the reminder. And
Great idea.
Yeah. There's so many people that use a Snap-on scope, but they have no idea they can take their captures and take them home and put them on a different computer.
Or even just how to share them with other people, like emailing them to your friend or something, like even stuff like that. They have no idea.
Yeah, I do that. I do that all the time on work because I log into people's Snap-on scopes on the regular,
Yeah.
and I tell them about ShopStream. They have no idea what that is. I'm like, listen, you can manipulate this stuff. You can send it to me. It's great.
It's really cool. Like, and so few people use it, but I will say it is. Sometimes it's a pain in the freaking ass. So we'll talk about it some. We may just refer them to Brian's video. Maybe put one of those QR codes in the book so they can just click it and go straight to the video. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Have you got your books printed, Bryn?
Shut up.
Yeah, bring lots of paper. We're gonna take a lot of notes.
Yeah. And bring
No,
your
I'm
reading
kinda the
glasses
same-
if you're taking mine.
I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I'm in a point now. I could print a book, but I'm between now and then. I'm hoping to make the book a little better. So
Well,
I'm
Bryn
gonna.
is saying he's a perfectionist to a fault.
Yeah.
Gotta be perfect. Cool. Well, I guess that'll move on. We'll keep moving this along because we're already a half hour in. I wanted to talk a little bit about George's wiring diagram class. 'Cause I friggin' love this class, and like, it's such a simple idea. Like, you wouldn't think it's important, but it actually it saved my ass, honestly, the other day. I got some PowerPoints I put together so I can show you guys. Would you guys like to play along?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks. So basically, what had happened was, there was a customer that called in, and he had a 2002 Volkswagen Eurovan, which are just junk to begin with. Sorry, Hans. And his complaint was the air conditioning didn't work, and he told me I jumped out a relay, and then one side of the relay the fans turned on, the other side of the relay the compressor turned on. That's all I got. So let me show you how we started, and just this total mess. So hold on, let me share here. Here we go. I'm gonna share. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Be all good.
All right. So the first thing I do when I do this is I just pull up a diagram of the air conditioning system, and this is the diagram of said system. And this is what I'm looking at, and I have no idea where to even start. The guy just told me I jumped out a relay. He didn't even know the colors. He didn't know what anything was. And I'm looking at this diagram, and it's a complete mess. I mean, just looking at it, you have no idea what's going on. I mean, granted, you could trace things out, but it would take forever. What the guy did, let's see here. That's the relay the guy jumped out. That's the AC pressure switch. He said he jumped out those two pins, then the fan turned on, or the compressor, I forget exactly which one it was. They jumped those two pins out, and then the other thing turned on. And that's all I had to go with. I was completely lost when I was looking at this diagram. I have no idea. I have no idea what any of that means. When the diagrams are just like that, I mean, especially with these Volkswagen diagrams, these early, like middle year automatic-ish mechanical air conditioning systems, it's just a mess of wiring. But I remembered I took George's class, and I went and I got my marker. That guy right there. I don't know if you guys can see the marker. I can't see it because
You still have that marker?
I still have that marker. I love that thing.
It's a good marker.
It is a great marker. All right. So what the marker is it's all different colors, and basically what you do is you start with what you know in the diagram, and you trace it out. And that coupled with circuit design, all the stuff you're going to learn in the class. If you start with something you know and just trace out what you know and how it has to work. So say you're seeing. Let's go back. Let's go look at this guy right here. All right. So let's go with this guy right here. Say you look at that guy right there. All right. So what is that? Well, if this guy's a ground, all right, and it's a switch, then it has to be a switched ground going to it. That's the only way that can work. It's stuff like that, but on a bigger scale. Turn all that off. That's really what this class is about, teaching you how to do that. So what I did is I went and followed my chart that he gave me. And if you look at the date on the chart, is when I took the class. You can see, I don't know if you can see that here.
9/20/2017.
about
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah, that's so. When I took this class at CAN, that's when I took this class. I safely put it back in my bag, and as soon as I got home, I laminated it because this chart changed my life. And this is what I ended up with. All right, so let me go move this over here so I can see. Let me move this over because you can't see.
Pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty, but basically what it is honestly where I started right here, right? Oh Jesus. No way. Let's try that one more time. I started right there. All right. What that was is just a ground. You go and you follow the ground all the way up. You find out it goes through this relay, it's through here. Okay, then you got a ground. Then you go and it's stuff like that. I mean, you start like over here. Here's a ground. Okay. Well, what's it go to? It goes to a motor. What's the other side of a motor? It has to be a power. So you follow that all the way down, and you follow it all the way up and around, and that's how that works. And about 45 minutes of doing this, I had everything figured out. I took pictures with my cell phone and emailed this to the customer, and said, "Here you go." I haven't heard back from him, which means this is all he needed. Because when it gets to this point, if you can't figure it out from here, you shouldn't be fixing cars. That's basically how it is. Because now at this point, when you trace everything out, you know, the biggest thing is especially when you're working on Volkswagens, when people ask you what's a known good value or what should I have on this pin, Volkswagen doesn't give you that information. It's never there. Like sometimes you get a pin out in like a GM or a Chrysler, you know what should be at pin 16 should be power or vehicle reference to this thing. You don't get that with Volkswagen. You just get a diagram and you have to figure it out. But now when you do this, you know what you have on this pin over here, you know what you're supposed to have over here, and you know that this is a normally open switch, that's a normally closed switch. You learn all this in that class. It teaches us how to think, circuit design, theory, and how to test vehicles. It was actually really cool.
I've heard the same, like life-changing. There's probably more people I've heard that from with George's classes, and he's brilliant. He just focuses on, you know, like you said, focus on the things you know first. You know, it's like just like I heard him say it to a bunch of high school kids at the Auto Mechanica. He said, like, if you get a puzzle, you don't just start randomly trying to throw pieces together. You find the edges, you find the areas that you recognize and try to get them put together. Then after a while, you start to, you know, everything starts to fit together nicely. Same with diagnosis. I think that probably all of us would agree that oftentimes we do this, we don't even think about it. We start thinking, let me check this. I know what I should have. And so I've heard the same thing. That's why I'm kind of bummed. I just can't seem to catch it.
It's such a, like I said, when I took that class, I'm not lying, it changed my life. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, and I'm glad he's doing this at this event.
And you guys, everybody, he like tells everybody what to do, and like there's a lot of quiet time. Like he walks around and makes sure you guys understand. You're physically coloring during the class, basically.
Oh yes, I remember. He took one of the most difficult diagrams I've ever seen. It was a Mitsubishi something, and old school Mitsubishi diagrams are ridiculously stupid, and basically you start with what you know, and you just start by what you know, and you get to a component. And if that component is ground, well, the other side of it, if it's a motor or something like that, or a load, the other side has to be power. So you follow it back, and it makes it so simple. And while you're doing that, you're fully immersed in the diagram. And by the time you're done, you know how the system works. And you probably already figured out the problem.
Sometimes you can just take the symptom in a diagram. After a class like this, you could just take the symptom in a diagram, and you can figure it out without even put your hands on the car. Like you just know.
I've done that many times.
That's all I do all day long. When I get a customer that calls up with a fault code, first thing I'll do is pull up a diagram and pull up how the system works.
Yeah, or you'll come up with like 2 or 3 possibilities instead of 100.
Yeah, that's how diagnosis is now. I mean, you're before you touch a car, you're just doing all the research, and you barely touch the car. That's the quickest part of the repair.
You never walk into a minefield without a roadmap.
Exactly, because that would suck.
I use that example all the time when I introduce teaching electrical diagnosis off of a diagram. I use a symptom versus diagram to determine what the cause is before we touch the car. And I use this one example I had that I've got a lot of good pictures and some video of one like this. It's like a 05 or 06 Focus. And the concern was, like, with the blower on low, the AC compressor would run, but the blower wouldn't work. And the blower on setting number 2, the blower would work, but the AC compressor wouldn't. And when you look at it, the diagram, it can only be the resistor. It can only be the blower motor resistor, and it causes both symptoms. But you wouldn't know that until you looked at the wiring diagram.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the wiring diagram, that's the only possible way you could get that symptom off that. So you immediately have diagnosed the vehicle. You just got to do a quick confirmation check, you know.
Yep.
That's really it. And that's why I love this class. I mean, if you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, it's so simple, but I mean, it's groundbreaking. Like I said, changed my life. And again, if you're a shop owner and you have technicians in your shop, make them take this class.
Yeah.
I mean, anything to stop misdiagnosis, not understanding how systems work. It's great.
Well, he teaches everybody how to teach themselves, how to learn. It's pretty awesome guy.
It is.
Yeah, I'm bummed I can't. I don't know. Maybe you guys shouldn't register for my class.
If we could get 0 attendance for Brent's class, he could just go to the other one.
Nice shirt, Keith.
Thank you.
I did notice that.
Yeah. Is there going to be a different version of that shirt this year, David?
It's yeah, I think so.
It's a pretty good shirt. It's hard to
That's
beat.
the shirt that's got something spelled wrong on it.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what's messed up? I had a shirt yesterday. It walked away. I never got to take it home. I need 2, David.
You need 2?
I need 2.
All right.
Sorry. I need a shirt.
What's spelled wrong? I want to know now.
It's on the back. It must be.
Zoom in, Keith.
Now go down. Go down.
A little lower.
Driving your success with one seat.
With one seat. I didn't even notice that.
That seat, the seat was sold separately.
It's just having your success.
It's like those knockoffs that you get at the concerts.
Metallica.
Yeah.
I may or may not have one of those shirts.
Yeah.
Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh well. Actually, is Mike Nicholson? I saw he was stepped away.
Yeah,
He's
back.
back.
No, he's here. We
He's
have
still
some
with
great.
us.
We have some great news to share.
Yeah, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Hey, buddy.
Can I say something real quick?
Oh, let's hear some news.
Well, we're gonna give the mic to Mike for a second.
Which one?
He rocks the mic right.
Yeah, Mike Nicholson in just a moment. But I want to say, one of the best things about like what we do is this like camaraderie, just being able to be friends with like-minded people that really are passionate about what they do and want to be the best at what they do, and it's really awesome. But what's really, really cool is when we see a need to bring other people up, right? Like just show them that this is not always, it doesn't always have to be a sweaty, hot, dark dungeon, type of thing. It's fun. It's a career. We can really enjoy what we do. We're allowed to. We're demand respect and work toward gaining that respect. And Mike Nicholson is here with us tonight because he is exactly that person. He loves what he does. And he wants to help somebody out, and he's decided to do that. And with that, I'm going to let Mike go, kind of share with y'all what he's going to do.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Can you hear me? No.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And a lot of that, it kind of stems with exactly what you were talking about. I mean, last year, almost a year ago, I met all you guys. And it was a life-changing experience. My mission goal was to get to, vision, and it kind of grew from there. I don't know, most of you guys know that I had won a seat that Robert Kennedy had placed out there for TST last March. And my bride and I, when we were flying back, we were talking about how just that event in itself, and I'm not talking about the ATE and the vision, but the TST and winning that and going to that was was epic. It was, it was life changing in itself. And so we kind of talked about it, and this is where we decided, let's get a seat going for Super Saturday. And unfortunately, I don't know if you guys are following the schedules, but we have here in Washington the mini ATE in Spokane. So there's a schedule conflict with training. Like March, it happens in October. So I'm going to be attending that, but we decided to go ahead and purchase a seat. I talked to Dave, and so that's basically where we're at on that, and we're trying to find the right candidate. I'm going to take this one from Jim Morton, but we're kind of looking for that, that individual that's got the fire in his, belly, wants to get to that life-changing training, because and it's not just the training. The magic happens before and after, just like you said, the camaraderie, the networking. So that's the direction that we're kind of going with this, and I'm proud to say that we were able to fulfill that. We got a seat. So the person that is the technician that is hopefully going to be winning this seat, and I'd also a sensor, of course. I can always throw that one in.
Nice.
And get them going, and bring that passion, because this is all the stuff that just changed the way that it changed my direction and the diagnostics. So I honestly, guys, I'm speechless. I'm humbled with the friends and the networking that I have evolved into and grown with over the last year. A lot of you guys I consider very close ones.
Well, that's awesome of you to say. Thank you. Well, that's just great, man. That's awesome. Super excited to help somebody, hopefully somebody that hasn't experienced something like this, and,
right. Absolutely. And again, like I said, I'd love to fly over on the East Coast again. But we have the ASA over here. We have the mini ATE, and this is our first year launching that. So I really am trying to get involved in that, and I want to kind of be a part of that, because it's the big one in Seattle. Gone there the last 7 years. So the mini ATE is something that's really
this
kind of reaching out and touching those guys, and
Is it Jeff Lovell or Lowell or Lovell? Jeff Lovell is one of the guys that runs those events for mid.
It sounds very familiar. I
think Lovell's the guy from.
I'm probably gonna get beat up on the fact on this one here.
I remember I met him for the first time in Texas for the ASA meetings. I think that was something. I feel bad for not knowing for sure. I think it's Jeff Lovell. He seemed like a really awesome guy.
Yeah,
seems like
and I believe you're correct, but I'm gonna probably get a phone call tomorrow.
I didn't mean to throw you under the bus. I'd like to make it out to that someday. Maybe we'll.
Yeah, honestly, I think we're having a really good turnout this year. We had to change. As a matter of fact, we had to change the schedule because, again, in October, those of us that archery hunt, it falls right into our season. So there's a big conflict in scheduling. I commend all the trainers, by the way, for all the work that they do and trying to fulfill the schedules. Dave, man, you guys, my hat's off to you, brother. It's just the work you guys do to make these events happen is just crazy. And I'm sitting on the sideline watching, Yeah, it's
It's a lot that goes into it, that's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what. I appreciate it. Absolutely. When I first started going to training with passion, I should say. I've been going to training. I've been in this industry for 24 years. I wasn't a big fan, but when I started going to training with passion, that's a whole different thing. There is when you love for it and you're hungry for it and you're looking for it. You're bringing everything home.
Dave, you got a creeper. You got a creeper over your shoulder.
Dave's got a creeper.
There it is.
Now he's got to introduce
He's always
himself.
trying to get in the middle of everything. He's probably harassing everybody on the chat right now.
Hey, today I could wave at him and he'll see me this time.
But I wanted to thank you for helping pushing it. Whatever.
Paying it forward, yeah,
Paying
man.
it forward. That was a movie.
Yeah,
Paying it forward, man. That
No, you
that's
didn't.
awesome.
You didn't have to do that, but it's because you really appreciate, your experiences and you want to share that, and that's awesome, man.
I witnessed it. It's like what Robert Kennedy did was epic, and I can start shouting out names. I'll be here for days. I mean, Keith. I mean, if everybody came together, make sure that it happened for me, and that was a blessing in itself. I was just completely shocked when I won. The next thing I know, my phone was blowing up. I had Kuba was doing her work. I had Dave. I had Keith. Everybody was making sure that everything was just, and I didn't have to worry about nothing except my responsibilities. These guys had my back 100%, and that experience, yeah, that's something I'm not gonna forget.
Yeah.
The hospitality. I told Keith. I tried to even pay him gas money, and he was like, "What? What are you doing?" I was like, "All right, well, I'll tell you what. The hospitality is going to be repeated if you ever come to Washington State." So
I couldn't do that anyway. I was so happy for you and your Australian wife that it was the least I could do.
I feel like there's a story in there somewhere. I don't know.
there is a story in there.
Mike, go tell the story because that's hilarious.
Yeah. So at Vision, we were sitting there, and they were having the awards dinner, and they had all these big screens up on, and so Rachel and I were sitting at the table, we're eating, and I look up, and one of the awards was to the furthest travel, and from Australia, and I was like, and I saw my wife's name, I look at her like, why is your name up on the screen? And I looked down at her name tag, and someone misprinted it, said Australia. And she looked at her name tag, and went, "Oh!" Her eyes went about that big. She was jumping over tables to get it out of there. That woman was moving, and I went running up. I'm like trying to put a stop to it. I'm like trying to find someone. I'm like, "Don't announce her name," And so I found Brandon Steckler. I'm like, someone goofed up. Someone, they're about to announce Rachel's name for the furthest travel. They said that she's from Australia. He was like, "Oh, you got to talk to Sherry."
At that point, they just.
This is gonna be cool.
At that point, they just want to. They don't even want to hear you.
She was completely on the other side of the whole event. By the time I walked out of that room, she had made it out. She had it, yeah. She was gone. So yeah, now there's the Australian joke that's constantly.
Yeah.
She should have went with it, put on the fakest Australian accent. That would have been hilarious.
David, your son is talking trash under your wife's
Yeah,
name.
I just looked down and saw that. And he's hiding under my wife's name too.
I thought that was your wife.
Keith, you got something for us? Fazio?
Yeah. You want me to do that?
Let's do it.
Yeah. What the heck?
Hey, we do got to say
I'll
thanks to Chris Daniel. He donated $5.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome, dude.
Thank you, Chris. We'll put it to good use.
Too.
Yeah, it's gonna go to.
All right. So I'm not fully prepared here because I was actually out here doing this while you guys had already started. But so I got out here in 2005 GMC Canyon that apparently when it hits about 45 miles an hour and it's going slightly uphill, or if you're going under a load mashing down on the throttle, that the car actually stalls and then magically comes back to life about 3 seconds later on its own. So let me go back and I'll show you guys. One of the first things that we wanted to see was whether or not it was actually truly a stall. So let's see if I have it here. No, let's go back to the other one. Sorry about that. And let's get to here.
What do you got going on there? You running a Pico on the far
my
side?
mouse broke just before I started this.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. So, crank sensor signal, even during the stall, is right here. Now, if I go in here and I look, here's when you're increasing RPM. the crank sensor signal never dropped out on this car. So when this car would stall, it would start up again based upon this crank sensor signal. And if I go into, again, I had all these all set up to go, but I have no mouse. And we go into our second one. I added in our crank and our 2 cams. Now, this is during that whole event where RPM, actually, I'm going to go back one frame. I'm sorry.
Hey, Perkins, why don't you make his bigger?
Let me see if I can make that. Unfortunately, I can't share the screen because I'm not on there from this side. So, are you guys able to see here? Let's see if I can.
I don't know if I can. Won't let me go full screen on DeFazio's.
No.
So just click on them and hold it there. Go on. Okay, I can see you.
So, upper one here obviously is our crank. Second one here is our exhaust cam. Third one down is the intake cam. So even during the stall event, none of these signals at all dropped out. However, it's definitely a stall. The engine will actually shut off. There's still a continued rotation, but the engine actually stalls out. 3 seconds later, it decides it wants to start back up again. So in getting this a little bit smaller, I'll bring it out. And you can actually see where it starts to pick up again, where everything comes back online. That's all that little hash there. What that hash is the throttle body coming back online. When you see that there, all that little noise that's happening right here is when the throttle body would sit there and actually try to catch up and say, oh, I better open up a little bit and get some air in here because we're about to start. And it'll actually start the engine again, and then it continues on running like no problem. So there was numerous things here that come into play. So at 45 miles an hour, what could possibly be happening? You have things like torque converter. There's a possibility it could be going into lockup. I really wish I had my mouse right now.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, right?
What kind of tool are you using there, Keith?
Pressure. I think everybody here actually, I'm sorry?
What kind of tool are you using there?
That's the Farsight, and I'm using it. It has many other programs on there. Right now, I'm just using it for the Pico, simply because I love the way it handles it as a Pico.
I had it for a little while, and I really like the screen.
The screen is amazing, and having this little feature of that pinch and zoom, is just
nobody quite understands the pinch to zoom feature.
That is awesome.
No. Actually, I believe last night as I was showing one of the waveforms there, somebody was trying to pinch their screen on their.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was.
Is that anything like the pinch and roll?
Right.
Goodness.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, never dropped out on this one. I'm actually on the wrong file here again. Open. Let's go into here. And if I go into frame 7 or 8 on this one, it'll be frame 8. What we'll be able to see, is I added in, let's get it to where we can get to the stall event. All right, scroll that over. Okay, so still keeping the crank signal on the screen, 2 cams, and driving down the road. What you'll see here, if we can get to it, is the dropout. We have one more that's on the screen here also. Let me bring those up and out of the way. We also have our current ramp. So here's our ignition coil current ramp as we're going down the road, and this is actually the stall point. We look on it, we didn't lose cam, we didn't lose crank, and we certainly didn't lose the other cam, but yet it stalled. So what happened? We lost current ramp all the way through. Nothing changes. All those signals stay there. They all stay the same. And as I said that, it magically starts back up again. You'll see in a second here. All of a sudden, coil begins to fire again, and on we go. Like nothing ever happened. The only code that this car sets is a P0335, which is for a crankshaft signal. And obviously, that's not the case. So what else could have been causing it at 45 miles an hour? Well, that's what I was actually doing tonight before this actually started, is finding the answers to the question that we have. So if I go into the next one, starting on tonight, I decided to watch the injectors. Would they drop out? And indeed, the injector pulse also drops out. So we lose coil, we lose injectors as this is happening. Yet we have never lost the RPM. So there's only one thing that came to mind right away when I thought about this. I said the only person that's in control of both spark and fuel and shutting down will be the PCM at this point. So it was time to start looking a little further at inputs in and out of the PCM to determine what could be causing it, especially at a specific time at 45 miles an hour. So here I wanted to see if it was transmission related. Now, it's not going to look very clear because I really didn't care so much about it being clear. What I was looking for was, is there a change in the current ramp on the transmission fuse, which feeds each one of the solenoids? And during the stall event, if you look here, you'll see that we actually went from about 2.5 amps or 2.25 amps and dropped right down to no amperage whatsoever, right down to the 0 line. So it dropped right out. So we were no longer controlling the transmission either. So there was no major peak before that. There was nothing here that would indicate something like a solenoid that was there. We didn't have anything like a bed injector, a bed coil, anything like that was showing high amperage prior to the stall event. So moving on, we go to this one, I believe. And here I wanted to see what actually happened there when we dropped out that transmission transmission current, or that transmission fuse current, I should say. What was actually happening here on the power feed? So that's our power feed there. I'm sorry, I keep on moving away from it. I want to keep it in close for you. But as you can see, though, we never lost the power feed at that fuse. So when we dropped current, it wasn't because there was anything at all that was, ignition related. Now, all these, I had a diagram, and again, I can't pull it up on this screen right now. If you look at the diagram for it, and you look on there, actually, can one of you guys actually pull up the diagram for this?
I'm on it. What kind of car is it?
2005 GMC Canyon 3.5.
All right.
And what we'll want to focus in on is what feeds that transmission fuse, or I should say, what turns on our current for that fuse. We see the fuse power up there, but we want to know what actually turns on. Where does that power originally come from?
And which fuse is that?
Fuse number 24, I believe it is, the transmission fuse.
You guys racing? You Perkins and
Well, I thought I could put it on the screen better, so if he finds it
Do it.
before I do.
If you can do it, do it.
Fuse 24?
Fuse 24.
Yeah, that's run crank. Let me see here if I can get it over into...
Yep. So you have a run crank relay.
Putting that in front for everyone to see and circling while you're talking.
Yep.
Run crank relay. You guys can't see it, but the other guys can. The people watching.
Okay, good.
So the run crank relay, it's got a B+ constant to it that provides, once the run crank relay closes, it provides power to fuse 24, and then there's a branch off before fuse 24 for some other stuff.
Which tells us a lot right away.
Right.
If you look at where it branches off to, it also goes over to the injectors and to the ignition coil.
Yep, goes to shift solenoids, torque converter solenoids. That's inside the transmission.
Right.
And then
this one here is being fed by that relay. If you want to switch me back over here to the screen.
Yep.
This one here is being fed by that relay, and we're not dropping out that feed. So that relay is staying on. So that comes in from an ignition switch, right? So our ignition switch is sending out the power that comes down through that run crank relay and then goes down directly to a ground. It's not computer controlled. That stayed good. So injector, ignition, we would also have the same power there. No sense in going out there and doing this same exact test. Didn't need to go out there and actually test to see whether or not we're losing power to any one of them. The last one, which I believe is the last file I just saved. is this one here. So I decided to take another look at it, and I wanted to see what would be dropping out, what could possibly be dropping out. Now, if you can show them the first screen, or I don't know if you use an OE diagram or a color, but if you use OE diagram, you can show them that there are only 3 power inputs that come into that computer. One of which is an orange wire that feeds the power in there at all times. That's our battery positive.
That's from fuse 30 PCMB.
Right.
Okay.
And the one that I'm in right now is the next one over would be at the ETC fuse, where I back probe that to sit there and actually watch power input there.
Yeah, it's pin 13 listed as ignition 1 voltage at the PCM.
Right.
That's
and then you have the last
wire.
one there on the right-hand side. Is that, I'm sorry, that was the last one, the ignition voltage?
Yeah, there's 2 ignition 1 voltages. The one that comes from the ETC fuse, which is a pink wire, and then the one that comes from the PCM1 fuse.
Right. And the PCM1 fuse is fed by that same run crank relay.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. So we've already proved that the run crank relay is good, and mainly made all these decisions here just based upon quickly on a diagram and a couple of quick tests. So the next one that I went to here is the one for the ETC, and as you can see, during the stall event, when we dropped out current here, we're also losing our feed coming out of that powertrain relay.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's how they refer to it, powertrain relay?
Yep, that is how they refer to it. Yep.
And so we have power, we have ground going to the PCM, we have no other inputs there that would be causing this to happen. We have a erroneous code for a crankshaft, P0335, and we're dropping out here. The computer, when I went onto the control wire, which was the last screen there that I wasn't able to capture because I was trying to hop in with you guys, is the control wire from the PCM. And unfortunately, I don't have that one here. I thought I saved it and it didn't save. Sorry. But that control wire from the PCM was dropping out. And that's exactly what was happening here. So at 45 miles an hour, under a heavy load, when it decided that it wanted to turn on torque converter, clutch, when all these other things would start to happen, and I'm commanding, a higher load from injectors, from ignition coil, from everybody out there, this PCM would falter. And at that point, it would actually drop out that one feed going into the PCM. It would drop out its own feed on that ETC fuse.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I got the diagram so they can see what you're talking about. It's up
this
for
is
everyone
actually,
to see. You can
and I
see
won't lie
that.
to everybody, this is actually a truck that I bought for $500 because it had been to four dealerships, 2 independents, or I said they were on 2 dealers, 4 independents, and another company specialist. I won't mention names, but they may specialize in certain GM vehicles. They had all looked at this car and basically, gave it a whirl. This car has had just about everything thrown at it, including another PCM that they put in there and had problems that they didn't originally start with. So they took that one back out and put in the original.
Yeah, the diagram I have up for everyone to see, they can see the powertrain relay is grounded by the PCM, and then when it closes, it powers the PCM.
Right. And I had this along with me just in case, and what I was watching here was my power mode, just to verify that the BCM wasn't seeing some kind of a strange power mode, because that would change the input back to the PCM. The PCM might say, hey, we just turned the key off, turn that relay off. And at no point ever did it ever fail.
Right.
And that was pretty much it. Quick case study.
So it needs another PCM.
It needs a PCM and a good PCM.
So
So unfortunately, these things here, they a lot of times they're from the OE. They like to sell you the remanufactured ones. Remanufactured are not all the same.
Chrysler does that a lot with their ASD relays. PCMs just lose its ability to ground the relay for some reason intermittently.
Yeah.
Especially on the 2005 PT Cruiser Turbo, which you'll never find a PCM.
Yeah, which is difficult to find a PCM for.
They're very expensive too, man. These things are crazy expensive.
I'm not actually watching the chat here. Did anybody have any questions about it? Or?
I couldn't watch the chat. I was running the.
Somebody asked if you were rocking the car back and forth to test the testing to duplicate it.
No, but that's a great test.
Now, what I wanted to say is, now that sense of accomplishment, knowing you figured something out that has been through the ringer, that's got to feel good, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at the end of it all, I'll have a nice little truck for myself.
Well,
Yeah.
you only feel that like what 18 times a day, Keith?
Maybe
Is that
15, maybe 15 because I always have to wait for parts.
Is that a 2-wheel drive Canyon or a 4-wheel drive?
4-wheel drive, of course.
Nice.
I can tell you what I learned today, that on a 15 F350, the 2 gang plugs right underneath the steering column are interchangeable. And it will completely disable the network on the entire vehicle.
That's awesome.
They put them right next to each other too.
Well, I didn't really learn that. Somebody else learned that. I came in and showed them that.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
Should you go check on that guy behind you? He's been under that car in the same position.
I know.
Yeah.
I think
He
he's
has not
changing
moved.
oil. He's watching it drain.
He's watching it. Yeah.
That's how. That's how.
Very sludgy oil.
That's how efficient I am. My shop.
There we go. That's better.
Yeah, much better. Brendan, that's so weird.
What? It's a super old picture, man.
You look so happy next to the toolbox.
Are you or are you not wearing flip flops in that picture, Brent?
I think I am.
I can't quite see.
OSHA approved. They're OSHA approved flip flops.
Oh yeah, they're steel toe flip flops. So Dave, you had a little something too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought we left you out. First of all, hold on. Can we just all appreciate Dave's metal AF beard? That is a beard win.
He models for the God of War.
Kratos?
Kratos.
That's his name.
I was gonna go with Scotty Ian, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think he looks kind of like
the-
Kerry King from Slayer.
Yeah, the dude from Slayer. Yeah,
Kerry King. Yeah.
way more alive, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if Dave's son will leave him alone long enough for him to do a case study, it'll be good. Do you mind sharing it?
He's elbow distance away.
Do you mind sharing it?
What, the elbow?
I was going to say, if somebody calls Child Protective Services, I know to my house it's 23 minutes. Before they show up.
Wow, there has to be a story there. Backtrack that one, okay?
It's a joke. It's a joke I stole from Russell Peters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about we test that out? Hold on.
Yeah. That 23 minutes, somebody gonna get hurt.
All right, Dave.
All right, Dave, you gonna talk off your one computer and run the PowerPoint off the other?
Yeah, because I'm like multi-tasking and stuff.
Okay. When you get the other computer running the PowerPoint, I'll put it up full screen for everybody.
We got a request for the fire video. Just letting you know.
What are you talking about?
Pico will ask for the fire video.
All right, I think we're full screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good.
We're good?
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. Yeah. Can you help me?
Can't hear you.
We're losing you. You got talking to the computer. There you go.
I can talk to this computer,
You
right?
got to talk to that computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll look at this one.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So Pete helped me put this together. He actually did most of the work on this case study. He was helping me learn how to put case studies together. So he's been helping me with a lot of things lately. So anyway, subject vehicle. We got 2003 F250, your typical 5.4 liter. I get a phone call while I'm working at the Joe shop one day because I do some mobile diagnostics for probably about 12 to 15 shops right now. He calls me up, asks me if I can do a diagnostic for him. And I tell him absolutely. What do you got? And he tells me. He says he's got a cylinder 3 misfire. I'm like, all right, no problem. I can do that for you. So he goes and starts telling me the repair history on it. Tells me he did all the plugs, the coils, all the boots. And then he continues to tell me he did a harness.
Wow.
And all this was basic. Well, the first couple things on the list was him, basically coming to that conclusion that it needed, what 5.4s typically do need. Another shop told him it had to be in a wiring harness, so he decides to put a harness in the truck. Another shop said it had to be an engine. So there was about 4 different shops that looked at this truck. After he put a Ford Motorcraft engine in this thing, it still had a misfire in this truck. And he took it to a Ford master mechanic, and a Ford master mechanic said the problem has to be somewhere in the cylinder head. So after he put a new engine in this thing, he decided to take the cylinder head off this brand new engine, put another cylinder head on, which is kind of a joke to me. That's kind of when I lost my professionalism when I was talking to him and started laughing at him a little bit. I kind of felt bad about that.
It's crazy.
Just a little bit. Not too bad, though. So, you know, his thing was, well, what makes you so confident you can fix this thing? And I tell him, I said, listen, man, you got 7 cylinders that aren't misfiring. It can be pretty easy to figure out what's missing inside that one cylinder, you know? So, long story short, I ended up not going to the guy's shop because the owner of that shop is actually a friend of the guy I work for, Joe. So just because there would be a conflict of interest, I told him to get it towed to Joe's shop, and I'll diagnose it there. It'll be cheaper for him anyway. So, you know, he does that, and we'll move on. So, you know, I do my pre and post scan. I do a relative compression like I do on every misfire. Every car I have that's going to misfire, I do a relative compression. I don't see nothing there. Yeah, it's a little bit uneven, but it doesn't really bother me too much because this misfire was pretty bad. You know, it wasn't a dead miss, but I didn't see nothing in the relative compression to make me go mechanical right off the bat. So I just automatically moved right over to ignition. I current ramped the coils. That coil, I current ramped a couple other coils. You know, I can see that, you know, spark is making it into the cylinder, making it past the spark plug. I have no reason to think that it's got any kind of electrical issue as far as ignition goes, or bad spark plug or coil, anything like that, you know. Same thing with the injector. You know, I looked at the injector that was supposed to be, you know, that problem. This guy also swapped all the injectors around on this thing too, so I was pretty certain it wasn't into that.
That is a hell of a pintle bump right there.
Yeah, it is.
It looks pretty good, to be honest.
It's quite pregnant, yeah.
That's one thing I liked about this case study. You know, a lot of people think, you know, you got to use a picoscope or an ATS scope to be able to do this kind of stuff, and you really don't. Snap-on's got the capability of doing all this, you know, and that's why I think Britain's class is going to be a great class for anybody that wants to learn how to do basic stuff, you know.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
So, you know, so I checked this out. I was probably into this truck for about maybe 15 minutes, and I had something to do that night. So we were coming up on about 4:45, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going any deeper because I know I'm going in cylinder. I know once I go in, I'm going to stay, and I'm going to figure it the hell out, you know. So I knew I was pulling the plug. I was waiting until 7 o'clock the next morning when I got started. Pull my pressure transducer out, drop it in, and that's what I see on number 3. You know, I see a lot of pressure building at the end of the exhaust stroke.
So you got a bad cylinder 3 catalytic converter.
It wasn't a valve problem. I knew it wasn't because the pressure was building slow. You can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Yep.
You know, so I can see that, you know, the valve actually opens. You know what I mean? So I knew it wasn't a valve problem. And typically when an exhaust valve doesn't open, you end up with full pressure again, you know, inside the cylinder. So I knew it wasn't a valve not opening. I knew it wasn't opening too late. Honestly, my first thought was some knucklehead left a rag in the exhaust or something, you know?
It's a bad cylinder 3 catalytic converter.
What's that?
It's a bad cylinder 3 catalytic converter.
Yeah. Well, and that was my thing too, you know. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of back pressure, you know. So I do go to another cylinder on the same bank, and I didn't have it, so I knew right away that, you know, it was just that cylinder. And being that it wasn't mechanical, I knew it had to be an exhaust manifold. So, you know, I pulled the manifold off, and being that these guys had this engine out and the cylinder head off a couple of times, none of the exhaust manifold bolts broke. So I had the manifold off in about 10-15 minutes. It was a beautiful thing. best exhaust manifold job I ever did in my life.
Especially in the Northeast.
Yeah. Yeah, so I pull it off and I look in the cylinder and that damn thing's damn near clogged, solid. So I do have a theory that at one point when somebody put this aftermarket manifold on, I'm not going to bash them, who it was, but this brand, I don't think this thing was as clogged as it is now. I just think over the last couple of years, so these guys, the shop actually checked this out for a couple of years. They had this thing for about a year and a half. They were trying to figure this problem out. And the shop actually had to buy the truck because they had so many parts, so much money in parts in this thing, the truck wasn't worth it anymore. So that shop that actually was trying to figure it out put this manifold on about 2 years before I got it. So I think the misfire got progressively worse. And because that cylinder wasn't burning real complete, I think the carbon just built up in there and kept clogging it up worse and worse over the years.
Makes sense.
You can see this is another hole of the same manifold, and you can see just the casting is just shit. So I did while I was waiting for a new manifold to get there. I kind of just took some screenshots of what a regular compression gauge looked like. I'll be honest with you, it took me longer to find this compression gauge in my toolbox, and it took me to diagnose this problem. It took me. I bet you it took me about 45 minutes to figure out what the hell I did with this compression gauge.
Well, let's stop there. Let's because let's talk about this slide. I don't know if you're going on this. So it says why didn't relative compression win?
Yeah.
All right, but also why would doing a regular compression test fail you on this car?
Why would it?
Yeah.
Because you're only going to see what's happening on the compression stroke because the pressure that's happening on the exhaust stroke isn't as high as, and you're not going to see it. You're just not going to see it. You're only going to see peak pressure.
Well, it's making pressure. It isn't leaking.
Yeah.
which is sometimes why you need to get, because I hear this all day long with people who fight me about pressure transducers and scopes. Like, oh, I just have a compression tester. I'm like, go throw it away.
Yeah.
Well, on a 4-cylinder, you would see it more in a relative compression because it would be a reduction of intake manifold because there wouldn't be as much of a pull in the intake manifold. But this is 1/8 of the cylinders.
Yeah.
So although there was some stuff on the relative compression, it wasn't discernible easily.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it was a 4-cylinder with the same problem, you would see it on a relative compression. So that's why you've got to do the whole package like what David did here. He did the full testing. He determined all of the issues. When relative compression didn't do it, but he didn't stop there. It didn't say mechanically the engine's fine. You continued on until you determined the issue. You have multiple pieces of evidence to prove that out before you even pulled the manifold.
Yeah. So I don't see, and I kind of got into a little dispute with some people. Some people tend to think that manifold is considered a mechanical problem. I look at it more like it's just a breathing problem.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Because mechanically everything's perfect. Everything was perfect.
It's got a whole new engine in it and an extra new head.
So we have a question here in the chat. Wildcat Sabi, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Sabine.
Would an intake pulse sensor have showed this? Mike, you want to take that away?
Well, I responded because can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I responded because to him saying that's a good question because it would, but I wouldn't. I mean, by experience, I haven't ran across that with one cylinder not breathing out. But that pressure's got to go somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, would we not see it come back up the intake?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
The answer to that question is yes. It was there, but it was so radical, I didn't trust that reading.
Oh, you think you had
well, that's what I'm saying. Without a known failure, a repeating pattern that we see line of sight every day.
Yeah,
that would have taken me back a little bit.
There would be a lot of pressure that would be blasting back into the manifold. So I would imagine the waveform would be crazy.
Yeah, it was such a radical waveform. I didn't trust what I was looking at, so I just kind of saved it and put it off to the back burner.
I've had one that was similar, and it looked just like one giant spike that was across all 8 of the buildups. Basically, it was like a stair step point up with a drop down, and then it started all over again. So it looked like 1/8 of the amount of pulses is what I should have had.
Yeah.
Everything, all the other cylinders were undiscernible.
And you were reading that through the intake, Keith?
Yeah, it had a valve that the spring was broken, was just completely closed. So almost the same, not quite.
So what I ended up finding out afterwards was I could actually hear that ping in the intake when that intake valve would open up. I thought it was actually a like a water pump falling off or something like that. It sounded like a mechanical noise like on the front of the engine, you know. And then after I put the new manifold on, this front was quiet. I was like, oh. So
Yeah.
I guess now looking back, you know I probably could have trusted what I was seeing, but with that pulse sensor or first look or whatever I was using, it was such a radical reading that for me to be able to zoom in on that the big pressure change, I would have never been able to see anything else. So
See, it's funny that you said that too, because sometimes, you know, when I'm using my sensor and I see an anomaly, I have to kind of set that aside as, all right, well, I know that this is doing it, but I'm not going to sit there and focus my attention on this right now, because this piece of the puzzle is going to come in later on down the line. I want to find my good knowns.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys in the chats, they're talking about, they're asking questions if you saw that in the exhaust. Did you by any chance?
I did. This was an extended cab pickup, so the exhaust was real long. It didn't look real pretty. I do have those waveforms. I don't have them in the case study because I didn't think they were really clear enough to be able to show any valuable information. But I did save them. So
I think this could be a good opportunity to use that splitter Pedro tool from AES Wave that we mentioned last live stream. You know, you can have one where you could see the full spike, and then have another channel with one where you'll see all of the other cylinders. So that's a possibility.
So what do you use with that one tool, but 2 different settings?
There's one tool, so one scope, and you would basically be viewing the same waveform with 2 different channels. Or I'm sorry, you'd be viewing the same tool with 2 different channels on 2 different scales.
Okay.
So
It's a pretty cool idea.
So you could see the big spike and also at the same time see the smaller vacuum pulls.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was-
Yeah, David, you were talking about the popping. I've experienced the same. It was a Cadillac, and I heard the popping, but you could also feel the intake runner was really warm there because that exhaust that didn't make it all the way out. Next time the intake valve opened, it would push back a little bit in there, and you'd feel the heat on that runner. It was pretty.
Yeah, even if it's not firing, you still have a lot of heat from compression.
Yeah, even if depending upon intake runner design, you could thermal imager that to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one on a diesel that I'm working on, just waiting on the fix.
You won't be able to see the thermal on the exhaust manifold because the heat would probably be colder.
I think I'm going to have to go break a car just to do a case study on this one, because now I want to see it.
Let's take an exhaust manifold off and put a block off on one of the cylinders.
Well,
I think
I got one on a TDI that I'm actually waiting on the fix. The cam is just roasted on this one cylinder, and you can measure it in the intake or on your intake stroke. There's like 180 psi going back in the intake. You can hear it through the exhaust. So the guy's just got to sell the job because it needs a whole head on a Volkswagen TDI, which is kind of cool. I can't wait till that gets done. I want pictures. But oh well, that'd be kind of cool.
I mean, I would imagine anytime that you can't get all of the exhaust out, like Brian was saying, I would expect to see it in the intake because you would have the leftover contents making their way back in, and it's usually really hash. It's a real dramatic spike, and it's real hashy, is what I've seen.
Yeah.
That was a good.
But if you really want an answer to this question, go to Brandon's class at Super Saturday and ask him.
Yeah.
I have a scope capture one if I can find it.
Just a shameless plug. Don't mind me.
Yeah.
I got a capture I want to share real quick. Just it really pertains. Hold on, just 1 second, okay? All right.
You're gonna have to quit sharing, David.
David's like, yeah, but I wasn't done yet.
Hold on. No, we're not done yet.
You spelled my name wrong. It was being.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
good. We don't love this.
Oh, this is great. There we go.
Oh, it went
no.
away.
We missed the best part. Hold on. Let's play it again.
How'd that happen?
I don't know how that happened.
I had no idea. I definitely wanted to turn that off.
Hold on. Let's go back again.
Okay.
Let's redo this. All right, everybody.
Key on.
There's a shameless plug right here.
Key on. Hung open injector. Too far of the key. Ignition spark. Ignition. Lift off.
What's happening in your cylinder?
Yeah.
This guy was working on
Oh God.
Ignition spark and lift off.
Hold on, one more time. Because I got the good headphones in tonight. Oh, the sound is just great. All right, that's enough of that.
this.
All right,
Hey,
so this, folks, is why you need training.
This was before I really took training, so yeah, good point.
That is training.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, spark plugs cause fuel to ignite.
Can you mute me?
Sure.
The new me.
The new me. Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, because hold on. No, not.
All right, now unmute the other one. Nope.
Can't hear it.
Sorry, Bryn.
The other one.
There we go.
Okay, did you get it?
You have to walk away from whatever it is. you're
Yeah,
talking on.
your speaker's still on the other computer, Bryn.
It won't let me turn it off for some reason. Oh, there we go.
I was like, what? What do you mean it won't let you turn it off?
Okay. Let me show you. Let me see.
Stab the speaker.
Where the heck is that? How do I go to?
He's like, I got it. I'm just gonna. I can't get it to shut off the stupid camera.
Where the heck? How do I share this one here? Let's see. Am I not in a meeting anymore?
Are you there?
You're in
You're
there.
both here.
You're here.
Let's see here. Where is it? I gotta. Dang it. I don't understand. There we go. I think I can do it now. There it is.
Do it.
Do it.
There it is.
Do it.
You guys see it?
Do it.
Yeah.
Wow. A lot going on there.
There you go.
So this is a, I think it's a 5.7 Dodge Ram.
Yep.
Very similar. It's
2012
not a aftermarket casting issue on a header, but same idea. Basically, not all of the exhaust contents are able to leave. I think in this case it was a cam lobe or lifter issue. But you can see in the in-cylinder trace you have. It's not as dramatic as Dave's either, but you have pressure buildup at the wrong time there at the exhaust stroke. But you can see the dramatic, rapid increase in intake manifold pressure.
I remember that in a John Thornton class, him saying dramatic pressure rise many times.
As the intake opened, you can see it.
Yes, as soon as that valve opens, bam.
I think there is in my case, you saw it a little more obvious in the relative compression capture here. You saw, the amperage, the delta there was not quite twice of what, some of the other ones were. From the piston coming up on the exhaust stroke on that, and the companion cylinder obviously coming up on the compression stroke. So, that's it. I'll stop sharing now.
That's a beautiful capture.
Thank you.
It was
It's
quite
been
sexy.
a couple years ago, I think. So that's it. We got anything else?
Sign up for Super Saturday. Can we show the website?
Sure. I can pull
Super
it up.
Saturday hotels.
Yes, hotels.
I believe they're on the
all that kind
website
of thing.
now. Is that correct?
Should be on the website. Yep, the Holiday Inn.
I got it.
No, I got it.
So paautotraining.com.
Okay.
There's the events tab, obviously. Takes you to information about the schedule of the day. Oh, there you go. There's the list of the morning classes, the afternoon classes, and the all-day classes. You said hotel info? Yep, there you go. Holiday Inn Express and Suites.
Awesome.
Very
Gotta-
cool.
you
There's
gotta
a,
make them
Are you
by...
screen sharing that to them, or?
Yeah, I'm screen sharing it to them,
Okay.
not screen sharing it in general.
Gotcha.
there's a lot going on. As Mike was saying, I don't want to take any glory away from Super Saturday. Definitely, if you can make it, that's definitely a great event. But ATE Mini coming up the same week. There's a lot going on. A month later, we're doing an event at the Daytona International Speedway for ASA Florida. It'll be our first one. It should be a lot of fun. So keep your eye out for local training, and keep your eye out for events. Local training is great, but it's really cool when you go to events. You get to meet some of the top in the industry and really get a feel for what's out there.
I have one too. 2 weeks after Super Saturday, I'll be in Wilmington, North Carolina, teaching the J2534 class, but we're doing a 2-day hands-on class with live cars. So that'll be, if you'd like to, if you can't make it to Super Saturday, you could do that. Brenner, you got any scheduled anything to teach your class again?
I'll be teaching my class locally. They were the summit for ASA Colorado was, they'd asked me about teaching the same class but for Pico. So it's possible that they'll have me do that, which is in January in Colorado, which will be real fun.
Especially being from Florida.
But we're at in Colorado, in Denver.
It's in Denver.
Yeah, well, Denver's typically like 20 degrees warmer than the coldest parts of Colorado during that year.
Just to say, you may not want to play tag in the snow in Colorado.
Okay.
Why's that?
Andy can catch contact straight off the plane, right?
Yeah.
So also you have the ASTE Expo down in North Carolina as well.
Oh yeah, yes, in September. And then there's I think AASPA is doing something the same week as the same week.
AASPPA?
AASPA. Yes.
It's a lot of letters.
PA.
AASPPA. There's a lot going on. Super Saturday. Make it to that one, but make it to all of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
go to all of them.
And if you get and if any of you don't have one of Michael's sensors, get one. Find him on Facebook. Those things are awesome.
Bring your sensor, your Mike Nicholson sensor. We will not accept first look sensors in the Snap-on class at Super Saturday.
They will be exchanged for Mike Nicholson sensors
There you go.
at your cost.
And if you like British accents, I mean, Super Saturday is the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, gonna have all you Yankees and then some of the UK guys. So
It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be awesome this year. We're gonna throw axes again. It sounds like maybe. Cool.
If you guys want to, we can do that.
yeah, this time no fatalities though. Okay.
we weren't supposed to talk about that.
I was a little intimidated by Mario. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Mario. Oh my God, that dude can throw an axe and he does it hard.
Wall.
Oh, I wish I could share the video because I have it in slow mo. Throwing that axe. Oh, it is the
It
best
is
thing ever.
probably one of the
I heard that was pretty epic. It was,
yeah.
Wall.
Specifically, Mario throwing an axe was epic. The rest of it,
Yeah.
we were just
Yeah, that poor target.
I still remember the first time he threw it. I'm like, holy.
yeah, I was like, oh my God.
So I was like, do not piss this guy
And he said he's
off.
never done it before, and there he is wearing a leather jacket, just chucking
Totally
axes at this
murdering
point.
axes, like dead bullseye,
yeah.
bearing to the hilt. He went through the thing, went through the wall, the next wall. It was insane.
To the neighbor's house.
Yes.
I just remember the owner of the place saying, "You're going to hurt the wood in the wall." Like, oh shit, you're throwing an axe at it.
Yeah, he was like livening it up a little bit, and we were like, ooh, he's just throwing an axe. That's
Yeah.
what you brought us here for.
Just cheap lumber, buddy.
Yeah. Get better wood, hardwood for this guy.
Oh, your pieces of the target were falling off by the end of the night. It was bad.
Every time the axe would hit, it would just explode wood off of the target. It was crazy. The dude was over there spraying it down with water so it wouldn't break as much.
This year, I'll try not to walk in front of axis banter.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
That was
I did it a couple times. I'm like, yeah, whoa.
So what was your you guys like first big boy training events?
for me. It was I took my service advisor out to Vegas for the AVI conference, which was the same time as Apex. That was for me. That was 2013, I believe. Well, I can't say that. I went to Cars, but I only went to one day. Cars was in Orlando, was like a 3-day event. And for some reason, I only went one day. So but I was by myself. It's hard to count that. It's more fun when you bring people. But so Cars in 2012, and then AVI conference in Vegas in 2013, and then I went to Vision for the first time in 2014, I guess it was.
What's the biggest one? I like if you had to think about it though, because we used to go out to the Lindertech seminars and they had the guru classes out there, and sometimes we'd have up to 100. So that was probably my first one, and then after that, I'd say the next biggest one would have been probably the Chicago Can Conference for the first year that they had it.
Yeah, that was mine.
I think I have the least amount of
First
big
year
boy
was
training.
first year was about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, about 8 or 9 years. Yeah.
Yeah, my
I
first
missed
big
that.
boy training
It's
event was
funny.
Vision.
I've been around
2017.
since I've known about the Lindertech conference. I just never went. I don't know why. Going back, kind of regret it. I heard they were great.
I always read about all these things in in the magazine and stuff. And I was like, oh, nobody ever goes to those. I can't afford that.
Yeah.
And then I went to Can. I was like, changed my life.
Yeah.
Vision was my first one in 2017, actually.
Yeah.
That was when
yeah,
I
go
first
for me.
went.
Yeah, mine too. I'd never been to a training event before that. I didn't know anything like that existed.
In 2017?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was in freaking dark in Oklahoma here. I didn't know anything like that even existed.
You went in 2018, bro.
Oh, 2018, that's right. Yeah, so
I went in
2018 was my first.
2017.
Yeah,
Yeah.
17 for me too.
Yeah.
I thought it was 18, bro.
Yeah, you're right.
No.
I think it was
No,
17.
Keith was there for 17. Keith was
Yeah.
there for 17. His
Was
second
he?
year was there. Yeah, because I remember
17 is where I met.
talking to him at the beginning of the John Thornton class, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought 18 was when we all.
Yeah, but Keith was there the year before. That was his first year.
Yeah, that was my first year as well.
Yeah, I was there
Yeah.
and then never met any of you guys really except for Brent, just momentarily.
Yeah, I didn't meet anybody.
And then he forgot he talked to me because I wasn't important. So.
Whatever, I talked to you for like a solid hour. I mean, I listened to you.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, It's probably a one-sided conversation.
Yeah. It's like, man, this guy must not have anyone to talk to. No, I really don't. Not in Oklahoma. There's like 46 people in this whole state.
and it's 280,000 cows.
Yeah. And 17 hunting dogs.
and they all live in your house.
Yeah.
But
I only
What about
have
you,
5
David?
dogs in my house right now.
what about you, David?
So my first big boy training event, but back in 2012, Jim Morton was doing some nighttime classes once a month at a local shop in our area. This pain in the ass kid was a pain in the ass, man. He would be up the shop all the time saying, you got to go check this guy out. I know you guys like training and stuff. Finally, I told him, I was like, dude, if this guy sucks, I'm going to punch you right in the mouth.
Was that pain in the ass kid, Brandon Steckler?
No, but Brandon was there. That's when I met Brandon, actually. Yeah, this kid was right, man. It was kind of cool because my first class with Jim Morton, he showed us how to do a relative compression. I was just like, what the hell is this, man? I'd never seen anything like it, and I'm like,
You don't know what you know until you don't know.
yeah, it's like so simple. It was stupid, I was like, holy shit! I could not wait to get to the shop the next day and just shit,
And yeah, I relative compression every car I think I've worked on for like 2 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, so after going to his classes for a couple months, you know, he brought up about the TST event, you know, big event.
And that's where I met you.
Yeah. And this was the year that Dave DeCourcy taught misfire diagnostics in the morning, and John Thornton taught on Volkswagen Audi GDI in the afternoon. And for my first big boy class, dude, my brain was cooked for like 2 weeks. Like, I never seen anything like it. You know, like
Love that feeling.
I don't know. I mean, I always thought you turn the damn key on, man, and the shit just ran. You know, like I had no clue how deep John got into stuff. You know, and DeCourcy's class was just awesome. I mean, I just from that day on, I always made sure I had a method to my madness. You know, and you know, but that was my first big boy event, and then as that fall started coming around, I started seeing things about vision. You know, I started asking Jim Morton again. I was like, "Yeah, what's this vision all about?" You know, he's like, "Oh, it's only the best training in the country." I'm like, "You're full of shit, man. New York was awesome, you know." And he's like, "Listen, sign up for it and go." He's like, "If you don't like it, I'll pay for it." I'm like, "You're on, dude." You know, so I went to my boss. I told him, I said, "Listen, I think I need to try this out. You know, I'm kind of in a no-lose situation here." And he's like, "Well, you know how I feel about training?" He's like, "If that's what you want to do, go for it." You know, I'm like, "All right," you know, and my boss offered to pay for a plane ticket too, so I'm like, "Nah, I really can't lose," you know. So he saw I was all gung ho about going out to Kansas City, and you know, he saw all the excitement I had for it, and he started looking at some of the management classes, and he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna go out with you," you know. So ever since that year, I want to say that was probably about 5 years ago, maybe 6. Yeah, we close the shop every year, and we send everybody. So
That's awesome.
But yeah, I gotta tell you though, that first TST event I went to, it was I'd never been to anything else like it though.
Yeah, sure. That sure is something.
You know, I mean, to sit in a John Thornton class for the very first time and never getting like big boy training before that.
Let me tell you, I remember specifically, I met you in the morning when everybody walked up there to breakfast. You were standing there. We chit-chatted for about 3 minutes. You seemed very, very lively. By lunchtime, I remember looking at you, and your head was like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, my first big boy training when I went to the Vision, my first day was Friday, and it was John Thornton's in-cylinder pressure transducer all-day class. My very first class, period. I walk into that, and I'm like, I don't know anything. Great. I thought I knew how to work on cars. For 8 hours that Friday, I just stood there and looked at that guy going, I have no idea what I'm doing.
that was Mana and Thornton on that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And they had 2 books like this thick.
Yeah. So here's
Can
the
you
book.
imagine the
Here's
book?
the book for my 8-hour J-Box class. It was 2 of them, like 30% thicker than this, each of them.
Here, read this.
Yeah. Because
WorldPack basically begged them to not do that again.
Yeah, it was. As a matter of fact, it was Mark Warren who handed me the book.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Here." I was like, "Sweet." He's like, "Oh no, hold on. You gotta get the other one." I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Oh my god."
Unless I'm wrong, if I remember right, at the CAN conference, they did it with 3 books.
I don't remember. Maybe it was maybe I only went to one CAN conference and then they stopped.
Yeah, I missed the CAN conference, man.
Tommy would know. I think he was there for that.
They're doing some cool stuff, though. They're focusing mostly on hands-on stuff there, right, Tommy? The hot training.
HOTT.
Yeah, they take particular topics. Last year it was Ken Zander's 4-part Pico series. There was also a Ken Zander's White Tech 2 class, Louis Nelson's hands-on scope class, a couple CTI classes, all-day classes at local colleges. So they kind of spread everything out. They have some really good ones this year. They have an ADOS class. I believe they also have a GDI class, though. It's a CTI GDI class.
But they kind of convert them to do a little more live car hands-on.
Correct. It's small. It's a small group of about 16, 18 people. And yeah, you just, a couple of hours in the class and in the lab. And they're pretty good.
Oh yeah.
I know the
Look it up.
instructor that really got my attention the first time that I went to what Dave was saying, the big boys training. It was ATE 2012. It was the first class that I took was the drivability guys, Scott Shotton and Eric Ziegler, a reprogramming class. Those guys definitely knocked it out of the park that day, for sure.
Yeah.
I've been hooked ever since.
That's
To
awesome.
have those two in the same room doing some teaching, that's some crazy stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took their hands-on scope class at Cannes that year, and it changed my life. I love that stuff. It was awesome. It
You
is.
guys can do it too.
Just to mention, since Scott Shotton was mentioned there, he just did a podcast with Carm Capriato. Absolutely terrific.
Yes.
Really?
What was he did another one? He did one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just put one out. I believe it was yesterday or today.
Oh, I'm gonna have to listen to it.
Yeah, it was terrific.
About his students and stuff. It's good.
And understanding why some of these kids that are in colleges are having a hard time assimilating into the workforce afterwards. It kind of gives you an idea of, the idea that college is not going to be enough for most of these kids to walk out and into a job and actually be able to assimilate into what we're actually doing out there in the field. And when you have a teacher like Scott, who actually, without going outside the rules, goes slightly outside the rules to help out and help them, figure out what they're going to need. That's a great thing for them. Hopefully lots of teachers out there will also listen to it and, and start to follow suit.
Heck yeah, man. There's a lot of great examples like that. Scott Shotton, of course, and Jim Morton taught at ATE for years. Tim Dwyer, I think, is another. There's Rick Escalambre. There's a lot of guys, like, for those of you that are teaching secondary and post-secondary automotive technology, like, it's not just about the diagnostics, man. You go to these events, like Vision has, what do they call it, an educator think tank, which is a whole separate section designed just to teach, instructors how to, reach their students better and know the material and whatever. And of course, NACAT is once a year as well. But definitely come out to these events and get to know some of these guys that are just badasses that taught secondary and post-secondary. And I think it'd be a great opportunity for you there too.
All right. Well, I think we said it all. It is almost 11 o'clock on the East Coast. I'm exhausted. It's really hard being this pretty. I need my beauty sleep.
You hear it sleep in too.
Yeah.
I managed to make it all the way through without biting my lip off. Actually, my lip feels fairly normal now, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching over me.
I got like 4 hours before I go to bed.
Yeah, you're still at the shop, right?
yeah. That's awesome.
This guy over here, he's still draining the oil.
Yeah.
He just wants to get every drop out.
Well, that's Alexis, right? He's still trying to diagnose that rear cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we put the link?
So that kind of gives it away.
Well, let's listen. Maybe instead, I'll say we could put the link, maybe some links into some of these events in the notes, but also just keep in mind that our website and the events tab shows you all of this stuff. So, well, I say all of it. We try. Brian, I should say Brian.
Brian does a lot of work on this website.
And if you know an event that I don't have, let me know. Send me a message on Facebook, whatever. I can throw it up on there.
All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Mike, Dave.
Thanks, Dave, for being with us, and Mike. Really appreciate y'all hanging out, and Keith and Dave for sharing their case studies, and Chris for sharing your George Minshew preview there. That was awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
And I'll just apologize again for being so sloppy with mine, but
Oh, come on.
I literally finished 5 minutes before we were done. We're not even. Well, you guys had already started 5 minutes in.
Yeah. You prepared a case study while on a live stream. You did a good job.
I did my best.
He's wearing the right shirt, though, Superman, right?
Yeah. So you got about 6 more hours, Keith?
No, actually, I'm going to finish up this last one here and then head home, and I have a little bit of writing to do. So,
Nice. Oh, good for you. All right, so it is good night time.
Yes.
So we'll see you when we announce the winner. Then I take it.
Oh yeah. We will do either. We'll do like a quick live stream when we announce the recipient of Mike's Super Saturday event seat. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, for that seat, it's the seat itself. So it's not airfare or a hotel, but it's the seat. It's the seat itself. But yeah, it's something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome opportunity.
Yep.
Right on, guys. Thank
Sometimes
you very
just
much.
take that little bit of motivation, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. So.
I
All right.
appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, not a problem.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
All right,
Everybody have a
guys.
good evening.
All right.
Have a good night, guys.
Everybody
Good night.
have a fantastic night.